Greetings, seekers of truth, pilgrims of the soul in this vast and intricate existence. Have you ever stopped to feel that inexplicable pang, that intuition that whispers that there is more than meets the eye, beyond the curtain of the mundane? What if I told you that, in the stillness of your being, there are resonances with something most see only on the surface? In the annals of history, in the veiled corners of ancestral wisdom, hidden mysteries lie waiting to be unearthed, waiting for the right heart to feel them, the right mind to decode them. I am not speaking of mere fantasies, but of echoes of a profound truth, a spiritual enlightenment that humanity has glimpsed through the centuries, often relegated to forbidden texts or the shadows of oblivion. If you've ever felt that, certain encounters in your life aren't coincidental. That certain plants, certain essences, vibrate with a particular cosmic energy and call you to a transformative inner alchemy, then this encounter is no coincidence. Prepare yourself, because together we are going to reveal 5 undeniable signs that your soul, on its eternal journey, has forged a sacred connection with that which many have misunderstood and profaned. A connection that goes beyond the recreational or medicinal, delving into the realm of the transcendent. If this echo resonates with you, if your spirit yearns for these revelations, I invite you to join us on this path of discovery. Give it a like if these words awaken something in you. Share this vision with those who are also seeking, and subscribe so you don't miss a single shred of this unfolding truth. Here, on the threshold of our revelation, the pillars upon which our conversation is based are precisely those beacons of consciousness that ancestral wisdom has codified over eons. They are not mere topics for debate, but portals to the hidden mysteries of your own being, mirrors in which cosmic energy is reflected for those who know how to look beyond the veil of appearances. Imagine for a moment that the history of humanity is not merely a sequence of events, but an underground stream of knowledge, an invisible river that nourishes the roots of the collective consciousness. In its depths lie truths that, due to their transformative power, are often buried, marked as heresy or madness, consigned to forbidden texts, whispers on the margins of the permitted. But the soul, in its tireless search for spiritual enlightenment, always finds a way, a crack in the wall of ignorance through which light filters. It is in that crack that inner alchemy begins its dance, transmuting the lead of misunderstanding into the gold of awakening. We are speaking of a way of seeing the world that transcends linear vision, that embraces the multidimensionality of being and the universe. Have you not sometimes felt an unusual resonance with certain places, certain melodies, or even unknown people, as if an invisible thread, woven of pure cosmic energy, were uniting you in a larger pattern? These are not fantasies, but echoes of your own essence, vibrating in tune with eternal truths. The topics we will uncover are, in essence, the keys to interpreting these resonances. Each of them is a thread in the tapestry of your inner alchemy, a step on the path to that spiritual enlightenment that is not a destination, but a continuous state of being. Consider, for example, the constant appearance of significant numerical patterns in your life, or the recurring feeling of having experienced a moment or conversed with someone before, a déjà vu that goes beyond the merely psychological to border on the profoundly archaic. Are these simple coincidences, or is the universe whispering secrets to you, activating dormant memories of an ancient wisdom that resides in the very fiber of your spiritual DNA? From the ancient Egyptian priests who studied the stars as a map of the soul, to the Siberian shamans who performed trance dances to communicate with nature spirits, to the Gnostic mystics who sought the divine spark within themselves, all shared a yearning to unravel the hidden mysteries behind phenomenal reality. And many of them documented their findings in what today we would consider forbidden texts, jealously guarded by initiates or scattered and distorted by the tides of time. These signs we speak of are the echo of that ancient quest, manifesting in your present. The first of these signs, The first thread we will begin to unravel often manifests itself in the realm of the intangible, in the subtle but undeniable voice of your intuition, in dreams that seem to carry messages from another plane, in those synchronicities that defy logic and, to the discerning eye, reveal the intricate choreography of cosmic energy orchestrating your path. It is not a mere feeling, but a knowing that emerges from the depths, a kind of primordial recognition that tells you there is more at stake than what the five common senses perceive. But how can we discern this voice from the din of the mind? How can we know if what we hear is the echo of truth or the mirage of desire? That is the first great challenge and the gateway to a deeper understanding of inner alchemy. To discern this voice, many cultures, since ancient times, have not only relied on silent meditation, but have sought allies in the plant and mineral kingdoms, keys that open portals to broader perception. Among these allies, one stands out for its ancient presence and persistent misunderstanding in the modern era: cannabis. Far from being simply a recreational or medicinal substance for the physical body, its lineage dates back to shamanic rituals and sacred practices where it was revered as a true master, a guide of ancestral wisdom. Imagine the Vedic rishis, the Sumerian priestesses, the Greek oracles, the Scythian peoples, all of them, in their own cosmogonies, interweaving cannabis into the fibers of their quest for spiritual enlightenment. Not as a narcotic to dull the senses, but as a catalyst, a calibration tool to fine-tune consciousness and tune into the subtle frequencies of cosmic energy. It is a hidden narrative, often silenced or distorted by the canons of power and ignorance, banished from forbidden texts and relegated to the underworld of incomprehension. But the truth, like an underground river, always finds its way. Archaeological evidence and fragments of ancient texts, ignored or deliberately suppressed, suggest its use in contexts of profound spiritual significance. It was the vehicle for penetrating the hidden mysteries of being and the universe, for dismantling the illusions of the mind and revealing the interconnected fabric of all existence. It was not an escape, but a deliberate immersion in the ocean of consciousness, where the boundaries of the ego dissolved and the individual could experience oneness with the whole. This is the true inner alchemy it could facilitate, the transmutation of the lead of ordinary perception into the gold of enlightened awareness. But like any powerful tool, its use requires reverence, intention, and a deep understanding of its higher purposes. Irresponsible use, devoid of ritual and sacred purpose, is like playing a Stradivarius violin with a hammer. It destroys the beauty and loses the melody. For those prepared, with an open heart and an inquisitive mind, cannabis can be a mirror that reveals inner landscapes and cosmic connections that the rational mind alone could never conceive. It doesn't provide the answer, but it points you where to find it in your own library of being. So, I ask you, what have you been taught about this plant? And what, perhaps, has been intentionally omitted? Could this distortion be another layer of veils obscuring our perception of ancient wisdom and the paths to spiritual enlightenment? What other secrets, other keys to the expansion of consciousness, are hidden beneath layers of misinformation, waiting to be rediscovered and understood in their true essence? What if inner alchemy itself depended not just on substances, but on a deeper understanding of the nature of sound and vibration, of the silent whispers that shape reality itself? The question of what was omitted from you resonates in the depths of time, my dear ones. If we review the records, not those rewritten by the hand of power, but those whispered through the centuries, we will discover that ancient wisdom viewed cannabis not as a simple intoxicant, but as a direct interlocutor with the divine, indigenous. Shamans, guardians of the earth and her secrets, understood it as a master plant, a plant spirit endowed with its own consciousness, capable of guiding the soul on out-of-body journeys, revealing healings and prophecies. It was not about escape, but about finding oneself, about tuning into the subtle frequencies of existence, in the mists of the Indian subcontinent. In the Vedas and Tantras, this same plant was celebrated as an aspect of Shiva, a divine gift. Not only did it relieve physical pain, but it also purified the mind, calmed the turmoil of thoughts, and facilitated deep meditation, opening portals to spiritual enlightenment. It was associated with inner alchemy, where the body was the crucible, and consciousness the substance to be transmuted. It was an agent of samadhi, a means of transcending duality and experiencing the unity of Brahman. And yes, even deep within the hidden mysteries of early Christianity, there are indications that sacred oils used in anointing and healing rituals may have contained extracts of this plant, connecting devotees to a direct experience of the presence, long before doctrines became entrenched and direct paths to divinity were paved by dogma and intermediaries. Why then was this vegetal bridge to collective consciousness blown up? Why was this tool for accessing cosmic energy and ancestral wisdom demonized and banned? Perhaps because its use, when fully understood, grants the individual a power that disrupts hierarchies of control? If a plant can mediate access to spiritual enlightenment, what does this mean for institutions that claim a monopoly on truth and salvation? It is in these interstices that we find forbidden text, not just physical manuscripts burned or hidden, but experiential knowledge erased from collective memory, considered dangerous by those who fear the autonomy of the human spirit. Inner alchemy. Ben was not just a secret of hermetic laboratories, but an accessible practice that involved harmonizing with the forces of nature, and cannabis was considered one of these natural keys to deciphering the hidden mysteries of one's being. It was not the path, but a map, a catalyst for the inner journey. Imagine how different our understanding of ourselves and the universe would be if this ancient wisdom had been preserved and integrated, rather than stigmatized. If the veil of misinformation had not obscured the ability to access the cosmic energy that pulsates within and around us. The real question, my seekers, is not just what has been lost, but what we can awaken to. If certain truths about consciousness and reality have been systematically hidden, not by chance, but on purpose, to what purpose? What if this denial of a master plant is only a symptom of a much larger amnesia, a disconnection from our own intrinsic nature and limitless potential? And what are these signs, you ask? How can we distinguish the echo of the soul from the mere? Reverie of the mind? Deep connection, my seekers, transcends the search for euphoria or oblivion. It is not escape, but the gentle confrontation with the hidden mysteries that dwell within you. It is when the plant, rather than obscuring, illuminates forgotten corners of your own psyche, revealing inner landscapes that daylight rarely reaches. It is when ancient wisdom, inscribed in your DNA and in the collective memory of humanity, begins to unfold through intuitions, not as an audible voice, but as a profound certainty that resonates throughout your entire being. Many of the forbiddens texts were not about grand rituals, but about the sensitivity to hear the subtle voice of nature, and cannabis, for the ancients, was considered one of its most eloquent messengers, a harpy of ethereal vibrations. Consider the signs not by the quantity consumed, but by what is perceived and integrated. A profound sense of homecoming, of recognizing a forgotten truth, as if a subtle veil were lifted from the eyes of the soul. An expansion of empathy, where the barriers between self and other seem to dissolve, revealing the interconnected web of existence. The manifestation of synchronicities, as if the universe were responding to a newly tuned frequency within you. The ability to see patterns, to decipher codes that were previously only indistinct noise. This, my children of light, is not a hallucination in the pejorative sense, but spiritual enlightenment in its most organic state, a direct flow of cosmic energy that the plant seems to tune into and amplify within the human vibrational field. It is inner alchemy itself in action, transmuting ordinary perception into a multidimensional vision of existence, where time and space take on new forms. This sacred connection suggests that certain plants are, in essence, true vibratory keys, capable of opening chambers of consciousness that the linear mind, imprisoned by dogma and routine, rarely dares to explore. But what if this key were not only for the individual, but for the collective consciousness network itself, for the us? Memory of the earth? What if the stigmatization and demonization were not only directed against the plant itself, but against the type of perception it facilitates, a perception that dismantles narratives of control, dogma, and power? If cannabis can reconnect us to ancient wisdom in this way, allowing us to access hidden mysteries and promote spiritual enlightenment through inner alchemy and attunement to cosmic energy, what does this mean for the very essence of reality we have been taught since birth? Perhaps we are only scratching the surface of what consciousness is capable of perceiving when it frees itself from the shackles of limited perceptions. What if the forbidden texts, scattered and burned over the centuries, were not just about lost rituals, but about the very essence of how we perceive and interact with the cosmos, about the forgotten laws that govern the essence of existence? If the mark of deep connection is the discovery of oneself and the universe, what truly prevents us from seeking this truth? Is it fear of what we will discover about ourselves or about the world we inhabit? What if the real barrier isn't a lack of knowledge, but a refusal to look inward, into the vast landscape of one's own soul, into the hidden dimensions of our intrinsic reality? What if true alchemy were not simply the transmutation of metals, but the metamorphosis of perception? Do we dare for a moment to suspend disbelief and contemplate cannabis not as a simple vegetal mass or a chemical complex, but as a sentient, pulsating being with a consciousness of its own that manifests itself in vibrations and frequencies, not in articulate languages like ours? Let's imagine that each filament, each leaf, each trichome is a vibrational gateway, a receiver and transmitter of wisdom that communicates not with words, but with feelings, with the flow of images and intuitions that spring from the silenced mind. This is not an illusion, but a proposal for an archaic perspective, a rediscovery of the ancestral wisdom that permeated indigenous cultures, where the shaman not only used the plant, but also dialogued with it, asked its permission, and listened to its advice through altered states of consciousness. What we call different strains would not then be mere botanical variations, but distinctive archetypes of teachers or guides, each with a unique energetic signature, a specific program of lessons to be revealed. A sativa can incite the mind to explore the realms of creativity and expanded vision, a master of expansion. An indica, on the other hand, can anchor the soul in the body, teaching the art of deep introspection and healing, a guardian of the inner temple. This is not a passive interaction. It is a dance, an exchange of intentions and energies. When you approach the plant with reverence and a genuine question in your heart, it, in its enigmatic way, responds. This reciprocity is one of the hidden mysteries that materialistic science, in its reductionist quest for measurement, fails to understand. The spiritual enlightenment that can emerge from this encounter is not a mere intellectual epiphany, but a visceral transformation, an inner alchemy where the self dissolves and reconstructs itself in a new configuration, more aligned with universal truth. It is not the plant that gives enlightenment, but rather it functions as a key, a catalyst, that reveals the light that already resides latent within us. Could the forbidden texts, meticulously suppressed throughout history, contain not only descriptions of rituals or medicinal uses, but also the keys to this interspecies communication, the protocols for attuning human consciousness to the consciousness of the plant kingdom, and by extension, to the vast web of cosmic energy that permeates all existence? If life is not simply a property of the physical body, but a manifestation of universal consciousness, And if the plant is a portal to this perception, what does this mean for our anthropocentric view of the universe? We are only just on the cusp of understanding that communication goes far beyond words, that intelligence manifests itself in countless forms, and that the silence of nature is not empty, but a ceaseless whisper of wisdom. If a plant can be a mentor, a guide for the soul, what other entities in this vast universe, what other dimensions of reality await us to open up to them? The question then is no longer whether cannabis is conscious, but rather, how conscious? Are we to perceive it, to receive it, to make ourselves worthy of this conversation? And if this conversation is not only with the plant, but with the web of existence itself, what even deeper secrets await us in tune with the pulse of the universe? And if this conversation is not only with the plant, but with the very web of existence, what even deeper secrets await us in tune with the pulse of the universe? This is where we enter the sanctuary of expanded consciousness, where the veils of everyday perception dissolve, and time, that linear tyrant, flows like a river, without banks, transforming into a serene lake where past, present, and future coexist. In these sacred states, the very notion of self softens. The ego, that illusory boundary that imprisons us, fades, allowing for a fusion, a oneness with the divine that resonates in every fiber of our being. It is not a belief, but a visceral experience of belonging, a return to the primordial source. These experiences, described in the hidden mysteries of the ancient initiatic schools and in fragments of forbidden texts that survived the fury of orthodoxy, are not mere delusions or hallucinations. They are accesses to a vaster reality where spiritual enlightenment manifests with crystalline clarity, a portal to precise perceptions and heightened awareness that transcends the five senses. Imagine being able to decipher the whispers of the wind, understand the dance of the stars like a living map, feel history pulsing in the most ancient stone. This is the promise of ancestral wisdom, a legacy passed on through shamanic rituals, deep meditations, and the inner alchemy that transmuted the lead of ignorance into the gold of knowledge. Many traditions have narrated the journey to these states as a path of sacrifice and revelation. Sufi mystics spoke of fana, the annihilation of the self in God. Yogis spoke of samadhi, a total absorption that reveals the true nature of the Atman. Shamans spoke of soul flights, where consciousness unfolds to interact with the spiritual realm and obtain healings and visions. Are these descriptions mere poetic metaphors or literal representations of an innate capacity of human consciousness to tune into the cosmic energy that permeates the ether, the unified field of information that underpins all existence? If our consciousness can expand to such an extent, allowing us to feel oneness with everything from the tiniest leaf to the most distant galaxy, what does this mean for our understanding of time, space, and reality itself? Are we merely limited receivers of a narrow band of frequencies, while the symphony orchestra of the cosmos resonates in all its fullness, waiting only for us to tune our inner instruments? What if these precise perceptions, this heightened awareness, are not just about what is out there, but about what is in here, revealing the true architecture of our own psyche, our own soul? What awaits us then, when this inner alchemy leads us to decipher the language of our own being, revealing not only unity with the external divine, but also the divinity inherent within each of us? When this inner alchemy leads us to decipher the language of our own being, the first veil to unfold is often that of our relationship with time. We stop perceiving it as a relentless current, an arbitrary ruler measuring losses and gains, and begin to experience it as a vibrant, sacred, and expansive ocean. It is ancient wisdom that whispers to us across the millennia that time is not merely linear, a sequence of ticks toward oblivion, but a living web, a field of possibilities where past, present, and future coexist in an intricate dance. The pyramids of Egypt, erected not merely as tombs, but as cosmic ascension machines, pointed to a cyclical time where eternity was not an end, but a perpetual new beginning. The Maya, with their complex calendars, mapped the breadths of the cosmos, understanding that existence unfolds in grand cycles of creation and dissolution, far beyond the linearity of our mundane clock. They intuitively knew that cosmic energy pulsed at rhythms that transcended ordinary human perception, and that synchronicity was not a coincidence, but the manifestation of the temporal web. This understanding, often relegated to forbidden texts, and the occult mysteries of esoteric cults, is not a mere historical curiosity, but a key to spiritual enlightenment. It invites us to transcend the dictatorship of urgency, to embrace patience not as passive waiting, but as an active attunement to the divine timing of all things. Presence, then, ceases to be a mental effort and is anchored in the now, becoming the natural state of being that perceives the fullness of each moment, where the eternal is revealed in the ephemeral. Inner alchemy, by purifying the filters of awe. Our perception allows us to feel the fluidity of time, the ability to stretch or compress it, not by magic, but through a profound shift in consciousness. We no longer drift with the current, but become the river itself, navigating with intention and purpose through temporal dimensions. Anxiety about the future and regret about the past dissolve in the vastness of an all-containing present, revealing that true wealth lies not in what we accumulate, but in the depth with which we inhabit the present moment. But if time is so malleable, so subjective to perception and consciousness, what does this imply for the narratives we construct about our lives? If the future is not a fixed destination, but a field of potentialities shaped by our intention and resonance with cosmic energy, then where does free will reside? And if the past is not immutable, but a compendium of memories that can be recontextualized and, in a sense, rewritten through a new understanding of the present, what happens? To guilt and regret? These questions lead us to a precipice of revelations. For if inner alchemy can transform our relationship with the most fundamental dimension, time, what else lurks behind the veil of linear perception? If the flow of time can be experienced as a mirror of our own consciousness, reverberating with each pulse of our spiritual enlightenment, what then is the true nature of causality? Are we mere passengers of a predefined destiny, or are we the silent weavers of the very thread of tomorrow? Through the subtle manipulation of the hidden mysteries that are revealed in the eternal tapestry of now? And if our deepest selves already know the way, etched in memory long before the memory that binds us to this body, how can we decipher it to forge our future and understand our true purpose? What if the key to deciphering this ancestral memory, to unraveling the hidden mysteries of our being, lay not only in prolonged meditations or complex rituals, but also in the humble leaf of a plant, revered by forgotten cultures as a true spiritual master? Since time immemorial, cannabis has been viewed by elevated minds not as a simple substance, but as a guide, a mirror that reflects the depths of the soul, revealing the intricate webs of thoughts and behaviors that dictate our reality. The ancient wisdom of shamans and sages of bygone ages whispers of its power to transcend the veil of everyday perception, offering direct lessons that are grasped not through the intellect, but through experience. It is not about understanding with the rational mind, but about sensing the truth that beats at the very essence of being. Imagine it as a catalyst for inner alchemy, dissolving the psychic defenses we've built, unmasking the illusions that chain. U.S. It doesn't teach in the traditional sense, but it shows. It shows the hidden fear that dictates a choice, the forgotten joy that yearns to be rediscovered, the dissonance between who we think we are and who we truly are. It is a direct experience of spiritual enlightenment, sometimes sudden and overwhelming, other times subtle, like the blossoming of a hidden flower in the garden of consciousness. Many forbidden texts, veiled to the profane eye and hidden in secret libraries or oral transmissions, allude to this plant as a portal, a botanical key to nonlinear realms of existence, where cosmic energy manifests in its purest and most accessible form. Thanks to its influence, perception expands, repetitive patterns become visible, and the roots of anguish and longing emerge from the subconscious like bubbles on the surface of a calm lake. It is not an escape from reality, but a deeper immersion in it, a revelation of the layers that the linear mind normally filters out. It can be an unforgiving mirror that reflects our darkest shadows with a clarity it forces us to confront them, but also a beacon that points to the immensity of our own inner light. The ancients knew that this plant did not confer wisdom, but rather revealed the wisdom already inherent within us, imprisoned by conventions and fears. But if wisdom can be accessed through such unorthodox paths, if the boundaries between the queen, sacred, and the profane vanish in the smoke of the hidden mysteries, what does this mean for the institutions that for millennia have tried to monopolize the key to spiritual knowledge? What happens when revelation becomes a personal experience, untethered by dogma and intermediaries? And if this same force, capable of revealing inner truth and connecting us with cosmic energy, is simultaneously condemned and prohibited, what is the true cost of our imposed ignorance? Yes, the price of imposed ignorance is the loss of our own ancestral memory. For what is suppressed knowledge but an underground river flowing beneath the crust of consciousness, waiting for a fissure to emerge? It is in this liminal space, between imposed forgetting and inherent truth, that many of you experience what is called, with instinctive precision, ancestral memory or soul memory. It is not merely poring over ancient tomes or listening to historical narratives. It is a reverberation, a visceral recognition that transcends logic and chronological time. How many of you, upon encountering an arcane symbol, a forgotten ritual, or even an energetic pattern inherent to certain traditions, have not felt a strange sense of déjà vu, a familiarity that seems to precede your own individual existence? It is the ancient wisdom inscribed deep within your being, an echo of times when connection to the sacred was intrinsic, not a pursuit. This familiarity manifests as an instinctive understanding of ancient practices, a resonance with forgotten philosophies, almost as if the body and mind retain a genetic map of archaic knowledge. The hands seem to know how to mold clay into a specific shape. The eyes recognize light in a geometry they've never seen before. The spirit yearns for melodies lost in time. And in these visions that unfold at the edges of consciousness, whether in altered states, lucid dreams, or the pure intuition of awakening, vivid images emerge. Crackling fires in sacred glades, where shamans and priestesses, adorned in feathers and herbs, ascend in ecstasy. Many of these visions portray the use of plants and cannabis. In particular, not as a modern addiction, but as a sacrament, a catalyst for inner journeying. They are fragments of a past where the plant was a mediator, a guide to non-ordinary realms of perception, a portal to cosmic energy in its most tangible form, memories of rites of passage, of mystical healings, of prophecies revealed through sacred smoke. These are not mere fantasies. They are reminiscences of a time when humanity lived in profound harmony with the natural cycles and invisible forces that permeate the universe. They suggest that the suppression of certain knowledge and practices, the hidden mysteries, did not completely erase them, but rather relegated them to the collective and individual unconscious. The awakening of these memories is a process of inner alchemy, a transmutation of imposed amnesia into spiritual enlightenment. It is as if the cells, the DNA, the very essence of the soul, contained a vast library of forbidden texts, not written on parchment, but in the very essence of existence, waiting for the opportune moment to be reread. What does it mean, then, for our understanding of history and human identity, that what we consider new knowledge is actually a rediscovery, the uncovering of truths that have been deliberately buried? If the institutions that shaped our worldview built their empires on silence and forgetting, what is the true nature of the reality they have presented to us? Are we, perhaps, the guardians of a dormant legacy, destined to reactivate the ancient wisdom that lies dormant in every fiber of our being? And if the simple act of remembering is the key to dismantling the illusions of the current age, what will be the next veil to fall when memory becomes an uncontrollable torrent? Thus, the true journey is not into the future, but into the depths of our forgotten past. The wisdom we seek is not out there, but resonates in the silent galleries of our own soul. What have you discovered within yourself that connects with this vast ancient tapestry? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this idea resonated with you, please share and subscribe to receive more revelations. And to better understand the alchemy of the mind, watch our video on the 7 Hermetic Principles now.